The data center industry is moving faster than ever, and behind the scenes, some seriously smart people are making it all happen. Welcome to the Inside Data Center podcast, where we dive into the stories, insights, and innovations driving real change across the industry. From hyperscale campuses to game-changing technologies, we're talking to the people shaping the future of digital infrastructure. Whether you live and breathe data centers or just want to understand what's powering our connected world, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Inside Data Center podcast. On this episode, I'm joined by Waleed Zafar of XYZ Reality. Good afternoon, Waleed.
Afternoon, Andy. How are we doing?
I'm good. Good to see you. I think we've done this before. It seems like quite a while ago. I've obviously had David on a few times and a few of your colleagues, but I think myself and you, it must have been a good few years ago since we last had this conversation.
Yeah, I know. It's always good seeing each other, bump into each other at the events as well. And so always nice to be able to jump back in. So appreciate you organising this. Thank you.
No, pleasure. I want to take a look back at the last 12 months, kind of industry-wise. It's December the 10th as we record this, so the listeners know. Hopefully we'll get this out before Christmas, but it's been a crazy year. And I know for the industry it's been transformational, but also for yourselves, for XYZ and some of the developments you've had as a business have been transformational as well. So I thought it's a good opportunity to spend 20, 25 minutes looking at how the industry's changed, but also how your business has changed as well. I think the key for me, when I look back at the year and the news flow, when I write my newsletter every Friday, it seems to take me longer and longer now every week because there's so much news, whether it's new campuses, new platforms, M&A, new technology. And because of all this demand, obviously the race to build faster is bigger than ever. We have to deliver as quickly as we can now as an industry to cope with all this increased demand. So I wondered from your perspective what you've seen that's kind of driving the acceleration, and is construction now like a limiting factor in the growth of some of these major organizations that are chasing capacity?
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. I think from our standpoint, kind of what we saw was that 2023 was like the year of planning, 2024 was like the year of acquisition, so to speak, in terms of getting the land and the power. And then the early players who did that, they've kind of hit construction this year, right? And so we've seen a big uptick as a direct result of that. And so I'd definitely say from this point forward, it's the years of execution now, right? So this is where the battle is won, so to speak, is now on the field itself. And I'd definitely say that construction is the limiting factor. Everyone is talking to us with the exact same problems. Can't get the talent, can't get the resources. Contractors are taking on so many projects simultaneously. They've stretched their best resources super thin. That bid team that came in to, the client to be able to win the project, that team is, spread across 5 different jobs now. And so you kind of have a bunch of really inexperienced talent trying to deliver these huge, complex builds. And as a result of that, there's going to be some missteps, right? And we're beginning to see that in the marketplace with delays during the construction process itself. And so, yeah, it's meant for a very interesting time in terms of clients trying to develop out their strategies going forward.
And I always forget about the talent conversation when I talk to anyone in your organization, because obviously talent's my job, but your technology has such an impact on talent. And I know as well as you do that these organizations that are building these huge data centers, the campuses are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The talent supply is not getting bigger. It's reducing because there's more demand on it, and there's demand from other industries as well, like power is having a huge impact on it as well. But technology is going to change that, isn't it? Technology is a solution to this talent problem, and your technology is one of those solutions. So have you seen it really impact your customers around the talent challenge specifically?
Massively so, right? So kind of the best way I can describe it is that let's say that one amazing resource that you have, right? That one amazing project director, you need to be able to amplify their impact and their productivity rates and their decision-making skills such that they're able to kind of have a faster flywheel of input of data going into their system or in their heads to be able to then come out with the outputs and the correct decision-making process. And what would have, for example, it may have taken them several days to be able to come to the right decision. Now, that data is there in front of them within the hour, right? That means that they can make faster decisions and therefore then deliver a better outcome. And I think that's the biggest impact that we're seeing, is that the productivity rates, and not just the executive management layer, but also then as a direct result of that in the field, is significantly faster. right? And it is genuinely like a flywheel, right? The faster you come to the right decision, the faster it then goes back out into the field. That means faster work and so on and so forth, right? And so that's what we're beginning to see more and more of, is like the actual productivity rates of installation in the field ticking upwards as a direct result of solutions like ours in the marketplace. And that only comes from having like real-time, 100% objective data that everybody kind of agrees upon that this is the ground truth, so to speak.
And have you found that as the talent landscapes change, when you've got new people coming into the industry, that they're more receptive to technology? Because I remember talking to you guys when you launched, which you'll know better than I do when that was, but it seems like a lifetime ago. But equally seems like yesterday we had that conversation, that trying to, get the industry, the construction industry as a whole, to kind of accept new technologies was challenging, because the industry is quite a legacy industry, isn't it? But as new people have come in, we're seeing more open-mindedness, I guess, to technology.
100%. And I think there's been two factors where, like, we've literally had like clients, contractors come up to us and say, hey, look, we can't keep doing this the same way that we were doing this beforehand, right? Like, it is not scalable, right? It is not the solution. Like, we have no choice but to adopt a solution like yours to be able to accelerate our delivery program and de-risk it as well. And so as a result of that, just people have just sort of embraced it with open arms and are now like really leveraging the power of data.
Yeah, and you see it in all industries. You see it in recruitment as an industry. We are all trying to, how can we make ourselves more productive? And I think within the construction, specifically in data centers, you've got that demand that there's a necessity to do it as quickly as you can, isn't it? So it's like a testing field as well, I think, for the wider construction industry.
Absolutely. And like what we're starting to see is that our clients get bolder as well, right? And so, whereas beforehand they would talk about, initially launching us on like a couple of projects, let's say, to start with, right? They're going, right, oh, like we don't have a choice. We need you to deploy on like 10 projects simultaneously all across the globe in order to be able to get us moving. Like, we know that you guys operate well. We know you work. We know your value add and the delivery model. And so we have no doubt that you'll be able to scale with us globally, right? And so that becomes the initial test bed for us, which means that, like, similarly, so we've had to scale super quick this year as a direct result of that.
Yeah, and I was going to touch on the Applied Digital partnership. When you're talking scale, Applied Digital's facilities certainly tick that box. And I had Wes Cummins on here a few months back, and as an organisation, they have significant growth, and that, I guess, was that Applied Digital looking at a new delivery model, trying to adapt in order to be able to build at the scale that they need to build at.
110%. And they had tried, like, and fair play to them, right? They tried every solution in the marketplace, right, before coming to a decision that, we were the leaders, so to speak. And so, and I think that comes from leadership, right? That comes from being open to change and constantly like creating a test bed environment to be able to test solutions, for example, to figure out what is the right one for you. And we went through that process with them, like, successfully. We hit it out of the park. And so our partnership is ever growing, with hopefully more announcements as well in the coming weeks and months.
And for a company like those, like Applied, why is it so important that they have the ability to use your technology? Is it speed? Is that the main priority for them?
Absolutely, right? So, like, speed and being able to de-risk their delivery process, right? As in, like, if you think about their kind of commercial model, they're building in very, like, I'd say, remote locations, right? These aren't sort of like huge metropolitan areas, right? So being able to get talent into those areas is a challenge, and therefore then the talent that you do get, you want to be able to amplify as well and increase their rates of productivity. And so this for them is like the perfect solution as a direct result of it. Super large scale, complex build program. They need to be able to de-risk it and simplify it. They need to be able to track all that data in real time, such that they can actually even prevent those issues from happening in the first instance. And as a direct result of that, therefore, then they get their end product much faster to their customer. And that means that that's extra revenue from their standpoint too.
Yeah, and I think the industry as a whole is, when I have conversations with those, whether they're within customers or talking to customers, it is the capacity being live is what they're looking for. It's like we'll commit if you can commit to deliver in the required timescale. If it's not 2026, we probably don't want to have a conversation with you until next year, and then it will have to be 2027. Whereas previously you could forecast that capacity demand up to 3 or 4 years ahead. now the demands there is immediate, and these customers want the capacity delivered as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's the name of the game, right? And I like, I'll come back to it. I think the battle is now in the field, right? How fast can you execute safely with and deliver an amazing, good quality product, all whilst meeting timelines that are getting tighter and tighter, so to speak.
Yeah, and have you got any examples of kind of like data specifically around the impact that you've had as the technology's had on a particular project?
Yeah, so like recently we announced this publicly too with one particular large scale developer, I'll call it that, where we were deployed on 7 projects simultaneously, 6 different locations across their portfolio, and it was in the hundreds of megawatts in terms of size across the portfolio. And we basically saved them 408 days off of the schedule, right? And that had a direct $130 million commercial impact for them, right? There's an additional like $28-30 million in rework savings by preventing these issues from happening in the first instance, and then the knock-on effects associated with that. But fundamentally, like the biggest driver for them was that was 408 days that translated into a $130 million commercial impact. And that was like the business case just wrote itself at that point in time. And so since then, signed an enterprise-wide agreement with that customer and that client, 9 figures in size. And so like we're super proud and super excited about it as a direct result.
Yeah, and the geography point's important as well, I think, like the ability to work across multiple geographies. I'm assuming, and I am assuming, like, you know, the same technology utilized across multiple facilities, you can learn from each of them as well, can't you? The learnings you've made on a project in the USA, you can take that to a project in London, for example.
110%. And you can compare the productivity rates as a result, right? So like the best way I can kind of give as an example, and I harp on about it consistently, but like, you know, there was a job site in Dublin that was doing 30 meters per day of buzz duct installation, and then there was an active project taking place in Paris, which was doing 9 meters per day. Why? How do I get the lessons learned from one project and disseminate that across my entire portfolio? And the other aspect of it too was that a lot of clients believe that the data that they're getting is like, you know, is clean, is accurate. But if you go down to like the fundamentals of how it's being captured, in the best of cases, it's someone walking out on site with an iPad with a set of drawings, looking around a room and going, yeah, we're about 20% complete here, right? Your 20% is different than my 20%, which is different from someone else's 20%. And when we're talking about the tens of billions in capex being spent, that level of variance has a significant impact, right? And so now all we've done is just basically taken the guesswork out entirely. And rather than, you know, let's say, for example, you know, you walk the site once a week with a 360 camera, right? And that tells you, okay, this was a 5-day activity. Now you have a solution which tells you by the minute, by the hour, how long each element takes to install, right? Such that, you know, if something is a 5-day activity, you can actually scrutinize that and say, okay, cool, what actually took place? And now for the first time, you can go, oh, so that crew actually came in Monday morning. They completed that set of works. They then downed the tools. They picked it up back up on Thursday, and then they finished it on Friday evening, right? So that's actually a 2.5-day activity. Now you can actually take that data and then re-optimize the schedule for the next build going forward. So you get, therefore, then a more compressed timeline. So this is what our clients and our portfolio clients are going through right now, is that leveraging the data that we've captured for them to be able to optimize the build going forward. And this is how they're going to win the battle in the field.
Interesting. And has it had an impact on the way when a customer would design their facilities as well? Like what they learned from building, say, last year, they take into the design process for the next facility?
Precisely that, right? And it has a significant impact, therefore, then also on procurement, right? And so as a result of it, it's just this like giant self-learning model as a direct result, right? And it all comes down to just having clean, 100% real-time accurate data. That's the game changing for them.
Yeah, data in the data center industry. I've said that so many times on this podcast, but it always amazes me. Like, we are now, the good thing now is we are using the data that we have access to. However, when I started this 5 years ago, I don't think we even knew how to use the data. So that's been a big change. And when you look at capex, you mentioned it, you know, the capex for a facilities are getting larger, and the announcements are getting larger and larger. Obviously, the design, the build, etc., is increased. Do you think that this push on using technology to enhance the build process is largely as a result of just that increase in capex means the increase in risk if anything goes wrong?
Precisely that, right? Like, if you will, like the developers are like signing up to more and more strenuous sort of like customer requirements, right? with larger penalties, liquidated damages, and the likes. And they're also then on the other end of the scale, where from the contractor standpoint, they're also, they're going to be hit by the EOT claims, etc. too, that's associated with it, right? And so all of a sudden, this data doesn't just become fundamental, meaning to accelerate delivery, but also becomes fundamental in providing them with like a risk insurance policy, right? To give them a digital audit trail as to exactly what took place on what day and what hour and what minute and by who, right? And so it becomes twofold as a direct result of it.
Yeah. And on the industry as a whole, you're similar to me, where you've got that kind of broad exposure to multiple customers and you get quite a good insight, I think. I find it fascinating, all the different conversations you find yourself in. But what have you seen this year? If we look back on the year, like we talked about talent, we talked about, the build process, but is there anything else that your customers are saying is a major challenge or has been a major challenge as they move into next year?
I think a lot of it's been around about, so talent being one thing, right, at that management layer, as well as at the kind of the field layer. So I think that's been one big thing. And then the other big thing has been just in terms of like the capex expenditures, like the cost per megawatt, especially in the AI build-out programs, right? People are always still, trying to do their targets of like whatever it is, like 10 to 13 million, right? But on the AI build-out program, like we're seeing anywhere between like 15 and 18 million, right, per meg. And so that, as a result of it, seems to be causing a little bit of like internal carnage, right? Especially whether it be with the investor group, the internal teams, etc., from a forecast standpoint. But this is just a reality of the situation, right? Which is that we're all after the same things at the same time. And so the result of it is the price is only going to, unfortunately, go one way, right? And so that seems to be one of the other big aspects that people are beginning to realize at the back end of this year itself.
Yeah, I get quite a lot of calls from investors now asking me, what's the price per megawatt? And it's kind of like, how long's a piece of string? So where are you building? What are you building? When are you building? I think the geography is another thing, isn't it? That's changed a lot this year. And you would have seen it because of the conversations you have. We're not always talking about the obvious markets anymore. We are talking about significant scale in remote locations, as well as the core markets remain very, very busy. But we've definitely seen a geographic spread, which has a major impact on talent, which again links back to the conversation around the technology.
Absolutely. And I think like the US, from like on I suppose like an XYZ standpoint, like for like this year we've 13x our number, right, from last year. Like, so we've hit this like amazing like inflection point of growth. And next year will be the first year that we would have generated more revenue from the US alone than we have done from the rest of the world, right? And so we're really beginning to see that we're entering this huge, significant phase of like execution, majority of it coming from the States. And then we have a significant European pipeline of work that's going to kick off then from the middle of next year. And I think in the year after then, it will almost be neck and neck again, right? And so I think that's what we're seeing now more than anything, is that the US almost has the head start, so to speak, when it comes to the construction phase. And then the Europeans are beginning to come online then from this point forward.
Yeah, I think the US is always ahead, isn't it? But it moves fast as well, especially now in the current political landscape. It does move much faster than Europe. But fully aware, when you talk to customers about demand and about where they're looking for capacity, there is that huge flow of Europe and that demand in Europe, which will, like you say, it's been very busy now in Europe. Don't get us wrong, but there's a wave coming as well. But we've seen similar the US scale of growth this year. Our own business as well has grown significantly within the US, and it is as a result of that, the scale of growth that's happening right now.
Absolutely. And like the other aspect that we're beginning to see more and more of is like partnerships being formed with the entirety of the supply chain, right? And we're going through the exact same process too. So we're beginning to partner directly with the specialty contractors, and we've been able to demonstrate to them at scale and with them at scale that they're able to help basically increase their productivity rates in the field and actually install 5 times faster with half the labor, right? So when Jensen Huang's talking about that the electrician shortage in the labor marketplace, like I don't think the recruitment drive into this space is going to help maybe solve the problem in the medium and long term, but in the short term, it doesn't solve the problem. The only way to solve the problem is somehow increasing the productivity rates of the crew that you do have, right? And so that's what we're looking to start doing now, is actually going further into the supply chain, be able to increase their productivity rates in the field itself.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. The short term is solutions, not the people is not the solution. Unfortunately, there just is not enough people, and we're kind of fortunate at the moment that a lot of other industries are not that busy, but that won't last forever. You know, the other industries will come back as well, which again will take a lot of the talent, and it pushes up cost of talent as well, which is another big challenge you're seeing in the industry. As we go into 2026, which, you know, I think you're the first person I've said it to. It seems crazy that we're not far away, only 3 weeks away, I guess. What do you see changing, like from a delivery model perspective? Is there anything you think will come in? Are there new technologies? And yeah, how will the customers build differently over the next couple of years?
I mean, everybody's been harping on about the same things when it comes to like modular and prefab and this, that, the other. But that only works if you have the same design, right? The same product that you're trying to deliver.
And the design keeps changing, doesn't it?
And the design keeps changing because the end product keeps changing, right? Right. The compute requirements and everything else. So as a result of that, now I think like people are slowly beginning to realize that you can prefab some of the core elements, right? But there's certain other elements that, you know, you kind of have to go about the traditional way to be able to give you that flexibility and agility that you need to be able to meet your customer demand, right? So I think that's one aspect I'm seeing more and more of, right? It's just that like being more selective and more stringent with what you send offsite to be able to produce and capture, and therefore then more strategic in what you keep on site for the agility aspect of things, right? And we see it within our own workflows too, right? That like now more and more from a client perspective, they're asking us to track all the things that they do offsite, right? As well as all the things they do on site. And it's all beginning to trend towards the same items that we're tracking offsite, as well as the same items that we're tracking on site and stuff. So,
yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? I agree with you on the modular. It's been talked about for years, hasn't it? Really, you know, like I've been in the industry quite a while, and modular has always been a conversation. It's definitely a solution for the right product, but again, like when you look at an NVIDIA types, you know, product forecast and pipeline, you know, how do you build for it when you don't actually know what's coming or when it's coming?
Exactly that, right? And I think that's the challenge, is that like how do you, if you will, like increase the output during that procurement and design process such that you can basically give yourself the best chance of partnering up with some offsite fabricators.
Yeah, and who knows what scale of rack or density of rack is coming next. I think it gets bigger every time Jensen stands on stage. So we'll have to see what happens and what the reality is. But those changes definitely don't help the industry from a forward thinking in a design perspective.
110%. And I think like a lot of the braggawatts, right? I think they'll be exposed come 2026 too, right? Like 2026 will be like the year of execution. We'll know who's real and who's not, who's got the capital to build and who doesn't, right? And I think we might see a little bit more of the consolidation taking place too, right? Where I can see a world where, you know, developers begin to merge together, a lot more JVs, a lot more partnerships, because again, there's only so much talent in the marketplace to be able to deliver these complex builds.
Yeah, definitely. And we're seeing that. Well, you're hearing about that already, aren't you? And I'm sure there'll be some announcements in the next month or two that kind of vouch for that point. And when I talk to the customers and the investors and the like, it is some that require much more of a commitment for that capital drawdown now, which again is, you know, impacting how quickly people can build, because the customer wants capacity very quickly. The investor or the capital wants commitment of a customer before capital. It's like a catch-22 scenario for some people at the moment. And like you say, that will impact on who can build, how quickly they can build. And I think I agree with you, joint ventures and consolidation is definitely going to happen over the next 12 months. We can look back on that prediction, but I'm pretty confident we won't have to wait too long for that one.
100%. I think we can cash that check in, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a drink at Christmas. Anyway, thanks for your time. Like XYZ, I've done so many podcasts with you guys, and your journey's amazing. I recommend anyone has a look at your website, and your content's great as well. And there's always some, you know, great insights that you share with the industry. So thanks for doing that. But if anyone wants to get in touch with you directly, what's the best way to reach you? Yeah,
just ping me on LinkedIn. Always more than happy to be able to kind of message back, etc., or just like reach out via email, waleed.zafar@xyzreality.com. As I mentioned, fast grown, just more and more enterprise-wide, portfolio-wide agreements. And so we're super chuffed and excited about the growth and looking forward to partnering more with the industry going forward.
Yeah, and we'll keep following that journey. But thanks for your time. I'm sure we'll bump into each other at an event somewhere in the near future. But if not... Sorry, PTC? No, maybe not. Not unless anyone listening wants to pay for my flight, book me a ticket, hotel, and convince my wife that it's a work trip. My DMs are open, as my kids would say.
We'll start a crowdfund, shall we? We'll start a GC crowdfund. I'm sure we'll
bring Andy to PTC. But thanks for your time. I'll catch up with you again soon.
Appreciate it, Andy. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Inside Data Center podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This show is brought to you by DataX and Data Exec, the recruitment partners powering global talent across the data center and digital infrastructure world. If you enjoyed today's conversations, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. It really helps us grow the podcast community. Stay tuned for more stories, insights, and conversations with the people shaping the future of our industry.